NASCAR became a national phenomenon by pairing the danger of sliding and smashing action with the glamour of 200-mile-per-hour drives toward million-dollar paychecks.
Kevin Harvick is a Daytona 500 winner.
Several drivers have elevated their performances to superstar levels, resulting in fame and a lifestyle they might not have expected, each with a unique journey to the pinnacle of racing. Kevin Harvick's journey was no different. A childhood centered in Bakersfield, California. A blue-collar standout among cutthroat competitors. This is a NASCAR champion who isn't just living some jet-setting pro-jock lifestyle. From a back alley to a borrowed garage corner, we discovered Kevin Harvick, a real hometown hero from the other side of the tracks.
He's going to win the race. All the move there, bud. Oh, good job, guys.
Who you meet in California isn't only the surfers, skaters, and stars seen on TV. Leaving LAX, there's still a 2-hour drive north into the California desert, and I'm beginning to feel there's a whole new side of Kevin Harvick we're about to uncover.
Bakersfield is definitely not that Southern California vibe. No. Just that kind of central, hard-working, desert farmland kind of a vibe.
This is like the heart of California.
What do you think it would have been like to be a kid in a town like this?
I think growing up in Bakersfield would have been tough. Are you going to work the oil fields? Are you going to drive a truck? When all your other friends are out doing whatever they're doing, you're working on your go-kart, you're working on your race car. I want to go to Daytona, I want to race. You know what I mean? And you're living in Bakersfield, California.
Kevin Harvick stands on NASCAR's biggest stage with checkered flags and championship hardware to prove the battle scars of a tough 20-year journey from Bakersfield. In the late 90s, Dale Earnhardt was the 7-time champion. The top driver at Richard Childress Racing inspired Kevin Harvick. He made the gutsy move to North Carolina, where he needed to overcome adversity all over again.
After the accident and turn 4 at the end of the Daytona 500, we've lost Dale Earnhardt.
Harvick was picked to fill the void left by Earnhardt. Just 3 weeks later, Harvick carried the memory of Earnhardt in the number 3 car to victory lane.
This is a win for this young man. It's the start of a great career for him.
Harvick and his wife Delana and son Keelan live in Charlotte amid a world of NASCAR stardom. But Harvick's identity remains tied to the lessons learned 2,500 miles away in Bakersfield, California.
North High, this is where you went to high school.
It is, and really not much has changed. It's pretty much the same. So really my whole family went to school here. My mom, my dad, myself, and my sister.
What's so cool to me is that this is like the quintessential California high school. It seems like half the school is outdoors.
Outdoors.
Yes.
All right, so clearly class change going on.
Yeah.
But I think we need to see the gym and the place you spent so much time.
The Mecca.
Yeah, yes. So it's not quite the Mecca. It was a very small hole in the wall.
The closer we know as Kevin Harvick trained here in the North High wrestling room, using a fender to eke out a win, pushing a competitor he wasn't pleased with. Those were moves learned under Coach Rick McKinney.
Hi, I'm Coach McKinney. This is my 3rd year as wrestling coach here at North High.
Uh-oh.
Hey.
What's up, man?
How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing well. Yeah, it's good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
When I started high school, I was an 86-pound, confused little guy. And I learned more about myself in this particular room than I have anywhere else that I've been in my whole life.
He was just a tough, tenacious guy, lean and lanky and awkward, but just tough.
There it is.
How old was he at that time?
You know, he had to be about 9, 10 years old, and the way they get their competition, they would have tournaments on Saturdays. Kevin, I said, you know, you need to wrestle in these tournaments. It's what's going to make you tougher. And he said, well, Coach, I can't. And I said, well, why not? He said, well, because I race go-karts. And in my head, I'm going, well, that's really great, kid. I'm sure you're having a lot of fun. However, Kevin's eyes are kind of welling up with tears, and I said, I tell you what, well, I'll figure out another way to get him some competition. I said, but when you become rich and famous, you make sure you give back to wrestling in North High School. Oh, I will, Coach. And so I always kind of joke, I'm the guy that almost screwed up his whole life.
You said the first time you met him, there's just something about him. You know, the lankiness, the drive, what he had. I want to compare that to his racing career. The tenacity, the focus. His first Cup win, he won by about 1.5 feet.
Gordon got loose, it's Harvick!
He's known as the closer. He's always that guy that pounces at the right time.
And he's gonna pick it off.
And has that aggression.
Well, here we go. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Was that something that he always had in wrestling?
See, the sport's full of emotion. He always had a confidence and a swagger. He might be losing, but he really believed he can always pin him. And if you gave him a weakness, he took it.
Harvick draws even again. They touch again at the start-finish line. Kevin Harvick scores the win.
I won a lot of wrestling matches that I shouldn't have won, just because, you know, you had that feistiness in you to not get pinned or, you know, to not get outscored. And then next thing you know, even when you were getting outscored, the guy would wind up tired and on his back, and you'd out-condition him and you'd just out-will it. The biggest lesson that I learned from wrestling was it was you against you. You're either all in or you need to get out.
Unbelievable!
The 2014 NASCAR Sprint Cup champion,
To live out your childhood dream just goes to show you that you work hard, whether you're rich, poor, you can achieve anything you want to achieve.
When you came back here, you brought the trophy.
Yeah.
Standing here talking to kids that filled up this place, what was that like?
This was the very first spot that we brought the trophy outside of the racetrack. We brought it here because I wanted to show the kids that no matter where you grow up, if you have your dream, you can chase it, you can achieve it. I didn't even really need to say anything because it's real. This is the house I was born in. I mean, as you can see, it wasn't like we grew up with a lot.
Yeah.
Bakersfield seems dropped in the middle of nowhere, with unique aspects that make this place stand out. After all, its renowned Basque cuisine even makes cow tongue fine dining.
I gotta be honest, that's the best tongue I've ever had. Okay,
Well, maybe not the best.
But then there's the other side of the tracks. A town called Oildale. Grittier, more blue collar, not as known for realizing lofty dreams.
You're in Oildale right now.
How about a zip code?
Oh,
You guys are what?
We're 08ers here.
08ers.
93308. So
08ers.
when you're an 08er, everybody knows you're from Oildale.
But you're proud to be an 08er.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yes.
Because this is where I grew up, man.
It was Harvick and his younger sister Amber, and parents Jonelle and Mike. There wasn't much, but a kid didn't need much to let their mind go racing.
As a kid, I mean, I was here until, gosh, I was here until I was 17 years old in this neighborhood right here. So this is the house I was born in, right here on the right, the second house in.
Brighton Way.
From 1975 until I moved in 5th grade, this is where I lived. And then when my parents got a divorce, Mom and myself and my sister moved back into this house. And then my mom lived here until last year because they had a little incident with somebody having a gun across the street while they were taking their trash out. So we moved Mom out. This is where my Nana and Papa lived, right here. I had my first quarter pipe that my Papa and I built one summer.
I can't believe you skated. I had no idea.
Man, I had a Vision skateboard.
His vision was
was terrible.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I was one of 3 skateboarders in my middle school in Alabama.
It's Alabama, though.
There was a lot
okay.
in here.
That's,
Oh,
can't
yeah.
skate on a dirt road.
I had this moped, and we would ride it up and down this alley right here. And we had a jump. Obviously, some of the kids still have a jump. And we would, that's where I got the scars all over my hand. We'd jump over these little dirt piles right here that looks like the kids are still jumping.
Looking at it now, it's tough to imagine turning child's play in the alleys of Oildale into a working man's wage. But somehow, Kevin did.
Was there any point where you thought, full-time racing isn't what I'm gonna do one day?
I mean, as you can see, it wasn't like we grew up with a lot.
Yeah.
We didn't really know any better that it might not ever work out because you just didn't know how bad off you were. You didn't know that you were eating beans out of a can at the end of the month because, you know, you're waiting on Mom and Dad's next paycheck to come. You just thought we were eating beans out of a can because that's what was for dinner that night.
Yeah.
So it never really felt like it wasn't going to work out because everything we ever did, we always won at, but we always did it with nothing. Let's go get a cookie.
Yes. Come on.
So we're at Smith's Bakery. This is just kind of the place that, well, probably got my favorite cookie.
How long has it been here? Forever?
As long as I've ever known it. How are you guys?
We didn't believe it.
Smith's Bakeries opened in 1945. The old standby that existed before you came along and will be there long after you've gone.
I already feel happier.
Because you try them and they just make you so happy?
I eat them until my stomach hurts.
Oh, man.
This is good.
It's just, the icing's like a little bit hard, but then it gets soft. Oh. Where did you first get the nickname Happy?
That came the first year I worked at RCR, and I was just happy all the time, so they started calling me Happy.
Kevin Harvick is the newest winner. And you know there is a smile a mile wide.
My job is pretty cool. You know that?
It's pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome.
What's next?
We're gonna go to Bob's Auto Glass, and you're gonna see the shop.
What's Bob's Auto Glass?
I love the facial expression. You're going to see the shop.
This is the part that they gave us to put our cars in.
Wow.
How did you find this place to rent as the race shop?
I don't think we paid rent. They were kind enough to let us keep our car here because we couldn't afford to buy a truck and a trailer to get the car to the track, let alone pay rent.
How'd you find a level place to set up anything?
Well, back in those days, we didn't really know much about everything needing to be that level.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
When you walk into Stewart Haas and you look at, a polished floor, do you ever think, man, I was just in there with the pigeons as they crapped on everything?
Yeah, and
just working.
There'd be people sleeping outside in the alley against the wall, and you had to make sure you were protected in the evening time. But yeah, I mean, you go into those shops now and you just laugh because that wasn't how you did it.
Right.
This is how you raced.
Now you're looking at Kevin Harvick, the new kid on the block in this series.
Harvick was a big name in Bakersfield racing, but North Carolina was NASCAR's central. So he moved to Charlotte in 1999 to pursue his racing dream. It was a necessary but very risky step.
In '99, running for Porter Cable, how big time did you feel?
Pretty big time.
Right?
That was when I learned you didn't sign things without people reading them.
Yeah.
So you went from beginning of year thinking, man, this is amazing. I'm buying a house, I'm racing.
At that particular time, all the owners starting these Busch teams, they all were looking for young drivers. So it was kind of like you had every owner in the garage calling, leaving voicemails at my house. Well, I grew up an Earnhardt fan, so I wanted to go drive at Childersville. He was like, can't talk to you. Let me know if you get out of your contract, we're interested. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? Well, where am I gonna get the money? He's like, there's only one way you're gonna get the money, and that's you're gonna have to take a loan out against your house.
Yeah.
Well, I just bought this house, and now I had to take another loan out, so I was 500 grand in the hole, hoping that it all worked out.
Yeah.
Between house and
Hoping everything.
buying my contract out.
You're kidding.
That's crazy.
So hardcore, man. That's awesome. It all worked out.
Is this where you learn to pass? Because you seem to be able to pass anybody, anywhere.
My dad would never let me start in the front. His goal was to teach you how to pass.
Yeah.
Country Music Hall of Famers Merle Haggard and Buck Owens contributed to what is called the Bakersfield sound.
Look at the derringer on the steering wheel.
I just noticed the cowhide carpet.
Long before they picked up their guitars, the sound around Bakersfield was roaring engines, powering the likes of IndyCar legend Rick Mears, and now Kevin Harvick.
All right, so where are
So
we?
this is where I spent the early part of my racing career. So this go-kart track has changed some, but not much. I mean, you see all the oil wells and all those fields full of oil out there that are pumping oil, but it looks virtually the same as it did then.
And let's point out, this is not a go-kart track like at a family amusement park. This is for real.
This is for real go-karts.
A bread truck hauled Kevin Harvick and his go-kart from track to track. It's another part of his Bakersfield past Kevin clings to.
How old were you when you raced here?
I started when I was 6, so that would have been 81, and I was 8 for 2 years. Because you had to be 8 to start racing. So I was 8 for 2 years, and then I started racing when I was 8.
Looking at this place right now, it's a pretty tight little racetrack. Is this where you learn to
pass.
Clear, clear, clear. Well, when I started racing, we would race the club races, and my dad would never let me start in the front because, you know, his goal was to teach you how to pass.
Yeah.
This was like the racetrack. You could race any class, anytime, anywhere, and you could win. We would win for the most part. We didn't lose too many races here.
Anybody ever raced you in cowboy boots like that before? This is impressive. I got $5 on you. Don't let me down, all right? Here's the thing, he's dirty. Watch out. He's got a pack of thumbtacks in his pocket, I know it. Let's do it! Kyle's coming in hot on the turn. Up the hill, Kyle's got the lead. Oh, Harvick's looking for the door. Oh, here it comes. Oh, Kyle's keeping him outside. Kevin's looking inside. Oh! Ah! Harvick by a nose! Inches.
Holy crap, I'm out of breath.
Me too.
People like Kevin sought out any racing they could, and there was one local track that was a connection to racing on a national scale.
So, what was Mesa Marin like as a kid?
You know, I came to Mesa Marin from the time I was pretty much born, and we would sit in the grandstands and watch the races until I was, 16 when I started driving.
On the outside, Bakersfield zone, Kevin Harvick!
In the early 80s, you'd come to the October Classic, and, at that time, you'd have 80 to 100 cars. Yeah, so the racetrack used to be right there.
Wow.
This used to be the only thing out here in the little convenience store. There was nothing.
What happened to Mesa Marin?
The developers came in and bought all the land.
The track was leveled for housing, but the housing market sunk that dream too. Kevin's mentor, former track owner Marion Collins, is all that's left of Mesa Marin.
This dark part here, is that where the track was? The darker brush there?
Oh, it's kind of growing in an oval, isn't it?
How big of a track was it?
5 feet short of a half mile on the inside.
What was he like the first time he came out here and raced?
It was fantastic. It was better then than he is now, okay? Because he could not afford to tear the cars up.
Now you're looking at Kevin Harvick, who is the 5th place driver.
And he finished, I think, almost every race for 2 or 3 years. He drove with the understanding that if I tear up this thing this week, I might not run next week. Yeah. And so that's the kind of driver he was.
Remember, Harvick from Bakersfield, he's got about 300 friends and relatives. He says, if I win this thing, you will hear a huge roar.
Then after the races was over, he'd come in and say, hey, Marion, let me borrow your golf cart. I said, what the hell are you going to do with my golf cart? He'd take his grandma and grandpa, take them out of the grandstands, and take them out in the parking lot, put them in the car and let them go home.
Really, my racing heroes were here. When we used to race out here and I was a kid, you would come out on any given weekend and there would be 4,000 to 6,000 people in the grandstands every single week. This is the short track racing program of America.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is what's happened to it. This is what will happen to all of them is if everybody else doesn't start paying attention. I really believe that we're fortunate to be in the position that we're in now, and if we can give these kids the opportunity to do something that they dreamed about doing, that's what I did.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by Mr. Kevin Harvick.
Welcome to the White House on this beautiful day, and congratulations to Kevin Harvick, the 2014 NASCAR Sprint Cup champion. Hey! Together, Kevin and Delana run the Kevin Harvick Foundation, which aims to help underprivileged youth, helping his hometown Boys and Girls Club in Bakersfield, California, renovate a gym and a playground, is supporting programming which prevents bullying and violence in his former high school. Kevin is working to make a difference. Thank you so much.
In 2016, the Kevin Harvick Foundation dedicated a new park for the kids of Bakersfield with help from the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation.
Just want to thank everybody. Back in 2006, I got a letter from my high school. Talked to me about the $1,200 or $1,500 that they were going to shut the wrestling program down. And that's really what has spurred all of this into action. I think last year we stood in this field and we talked about what we wanted to do. This is a bigger space than you think once you start walking out here. It is pretty big. The biggest reason that the Kevin Harvick Foundation joined with the Cal Ripken Foundation was exactly this.
How important is sports to mold in these children?
I think it's you're connected to something, and we know that it teaches teamwork. So we know that there's a lot of lessons, but many times we forget we still need to have the facility.
I didn't realize how small things can make such a big impact and affect so many things for these kids, because a lot of these kids can't afford to buy tennis shoes and food, let alone come to school and get the equipment that it takes to play sports. So thank you for all the support, and thank you for coming today.
The emphasis on opening doors for kids in Bakersfield accelerated when Harvick became a father.
I want to talk about watching you with Keelan, watching you and Delane and how he grows up. We've got a glimpse into your childhood here, from where you grew up, your high school, your go-kart racing, your first shot, and it's 180 degrees different from where Keelan is. That's why it's important for you to give back.
Yes, because I really believe that, obviously, we're fortunate to be in the position that we're in now, and Keelan, he's got every opportunity to do what he wants. But I think as you look at the kids behind us, if we can change the direction of 5, 10 lives along the way and give those kids the opportunity to do something that they dreamed about doing, that's what I did. Yeah. I was fortunate. I had a support of friends and people around me that said, you know what, I think he can do that. Here's $400 for a set of tires. Here's a free case of oil. They just continuously tried to help and gave me the opportunity to continue to chase my dreams. So doing projects like this at the Boys and Girls Club, taking that Sprint Cup trophy back, and being on campus, when these kids see it and they know it's for real, it's not just something that somebody talks about. When you're in front of them and making an impact, that's really what it's all about.
In the desert, roots extend a great distance to soak up every available drop of water. While Kevin Harvick now lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, his roots stretch back across the country, where he draws upon life experiences he learned amid the desert of Kern County, California. Wrestling forced Kevin to persevere. The Southern California racing culture taught him sacrifice. Oildale gave him character. Now, Kevin is showing others who can identify with his experience how to drive toward their own dreams. Around the NASCAR nation, Kevin Harvick is often labeled as the driver who replaced Dale Earnhardt, or a champion with over 30 wins to his credit. But around Oildale, his personality is truly revealed. Kevin Harvick's racing roots show the strength that binds the hero with his home.